Hey YouTube, today we're in Bedrock because we're going to be checking out this LEGO Ideas Flintstones set. Hey guys, and welcome to Brick Talk TV. Terry here, and in today's episode we're going to be checking out this LEGO Ideas Flintstones set. That's set number 21316. This set was released back in 2019 and it retails for £54.99 at the time of recording. It consists of 732 pieces and those are spread over 6 bags. So you begin the build with Fred's car, and inside the first bag you'll get Fred and Wilma minifigures, and then you move on to building Fred's house. Through the rest of the bags you'll finish off building the house with the finishing touches of the roof and the mailbox, and you'll also get included in those final bags Barney and Betty Rubble. If you're interested in seeing the build and how it pans out, then I do recommend you watch my live stream that I recorded earlier, and I'll put a card up here and a link in the description below to that video so you can see how the build unfolds. So let's flip over now and let's take a look at the model itself. So here's the set itself then. As I said before, you start the build off with Fred's car to begin with, and this is actually what is in bag 1 to start you off. This is a nice added touch here of a brontosaurus spare rib here, which is synonymous with actually the starting sequence of the Flintstones, where Fred pulls up to the drive-in and gets one of these ordered. And actually in the start you remember that it tips the car over because it's so heavy. So it's nice that they've included that here. You also get the addition, of course, of Fred and Wilma inside here. So if you take a look at Wilma, she's got some notable hair from the Flintstones itself. She's got some nice printed torso and some leg pieces as well. She's got her usual pearl necklace that goes round there. I think they're actually made out of rocks, actually in the cartoon, but she's got the necklace on there. And also there's some prints on the back as well. Then over in terms of Fred, if we can get Fred out of here. Oh, steering wheel's popped off. Put that back on. This actually front piece does manoeuvre down, so you can get these people out easier. So then Fred's piece, you've got the printed torsos of his usual orange tunic, I suppose, whatever you want to call it, and it's also printed on the back as well. There's no facial expression printed on the back of Fred, and there is, there is one for Wilma where she's got an angry face, which I suppose she's quite used to giving an angry face to Fred. So over to the car itself. As I said, this front section here moves down so you can get the figures in and out, although it is quite a tight squeeze to get Fred and Wilma in position, but it is possible, so don't worry about that. So there we've got Fred and Wilma back in the car there as well. The wheels do spin round. They don't work very well on this table because it's smooth, but if you were to push it along a carpet or a rug, then you would you get the move action. And as they spin round, you can see that the logs on the side, these printed tiles here, do spin round as well to give the illusion that it's a log or something similar moving along. You've also got the canopy, which is a material, so you may find over time that this actually sort of stains and maybe discolours, so you may want to look after that a little bit better, maybe get some spare ones. But you do build this sort of frame up above as well, just to make it look authentic. There is room in the back for another figure to be positioned, so you may be able to put Barney in the back, or if they ever release a Dino, you could put a Dino in the back. Obviously this set doesn't come with Dino. They didn't have a mould for that, so you don't get Dino in the set. But yeah, that's the car. So that's a good introduction to the set. And then a couple of techniques are quite interesting is how that they've managed to capture some of the actual way that the car looks on the side, and giving this illusion that the big stone wheels are actually in position with this split in the wood here. And there's a Technic piece underneath there where these rollers are pinned in, so there's no chance of them moving out of position. So that's a nice little build just to introduce you then into the rest of the set. So you do that in the first bag. So we'll just put this to the side. Then, as I already mentioned, you start building the rest of the house. You'll notice that there's Betty Rubble and Barney Rubble here as well. Again, these are printed on their torso. So this is Barney. So Barney's got his synonymous blonde hair. And he's got a smiley face on. There's only one face on Barney, but he's got his printed torso and his usual sort of brown coloured tunic thing that he's got on there as well, and he's printed on the back as well with some level of detail. So that's a good figure. And then of course you've got Betty as well. So similar to Wilma, Betty also has another face where she's sort of chuckling, so her usual laugh. I think that's a position for her face with a laugh. So you could also have that there as well. Again, you've got the printed torso in the exact same sort of dress that she used to wear in the show, and she's printed on the back as well. So they came out quite nicely. And then this is the final piece, one of the last pieces you build here, is a prehistoric postbox. And you'll notice that there's, on this side, there's this Flintstones that's carved into the rock here to show that this is where the Flintstones live. This is actually a printed piece here, so there's no stickers in this set at all. So anything you see is actually a print and there's no stickers. So don't worry, for those of you that don't like stickers, this set has none at all in there, so that's pleasing. And then this is a simple construction with a couple of Technic pins, a couple of Technic pieces just to build this post box. And there's a printed envelope tile piece that you can stick just inside there. It does have a tendency to fall out if you move this piece. So you want to be careful you don't lose that if you are starting to move these pieces along. I think in the original design, because this is a LEGO Ideas set, so this was actually submitted by a fan originally before he got 10,000 votes and actually made into this set. The original design did have actually lots more extra pieces like this post box here darted around. I think there was a stand for you to put the car in as well, and another couple of other bits you could stick around the house, but they opted only to do the post box in the final build. So let's take a look at the house. So the house is where you're preoccupied for most of the bags. So pretty much from bag 2 right the way through to the bag 6 will be constructing the house. On the front here, you can see there's a level of detail around the edge where you've got some plants growing, some pots and some flowers in the front here as well, some unusual purple ones. You've also got the 2 milk bottles that are outside, and if you remember back to the Flintstones cartoon and the sequence where Fred is putting the bottles of milk out and Dino and him are having a bit of a fight, Fred ends up putting Dino outside after he puts the milk bottles out, and then I think Dino goes and puts Fred outside. So there's a little nod towards that as well with these. There's some interesting textures as well used along the side to give this curved look, so it looks like it's carved out of stone. And also on this side you've got the detail of the chimney which goes up. And that's probably, the building of the chimney and this pile here was probably the most boring part of the build because it was repeating the same pattern 3 times in order to get this sort of pebbled effect on the outside. So it was only a small part of the build, but if there was one part that I'd say is probably the least interesting, it's probably building this part here. But nonetheless, it's still an enjoyable build. Then over this side, you'll see that sticking out to the side here, you've got a palm tree as well. So this is angled on a Technic brick using some Technic pins and also some cylinders going up here and a standard sort of tusk piece coming up at the top. This is a similar palm tree build. So anybody who's got the Pirates of Barracuda Bay set, it's the same sort of construction going on. There's some coconuts underneath here made out of minifigure heads as well. I've covered the Pirates of Barracuda Bay as well in a previous video, so I'll also stick a card up here if you're interested in getting a look at what the palm trees look like on that set. And then over this side again, you've just got some interesting techniques in terms of getting the curvature of the side of the building going. And these are just some extra bits that you slot into some studs on the side. On the front of the house itself, you'll notice some really vibrant tiger skin curtains, which are constructed from some tiles. And they're hung up on a rod in a clip on the internal side, and I'll show you that in a second. And then you've got this vibrant turquoise or mid-azure blue kind of front door as well. Because of the way that there's an arch with some curved pieces going here, it gives an illusion that the door is round, but actually it's square, but it's just the look of it from this side. So moving inside the house then, what you find is actually this roof comes off, and this roof is actually one of the last things that you construct. And you can see on top here, we've got some slope pieces here, and I've used these before to build level crossings in Lego City, but they've actually used them here to give this nice sloped appearance of the roof. There's some nice detail around the edges as well, where you're using some curved pieces to give a look like this. So you've got these bumps going on, which gives it a nice good effect. And then underneath, you've just got this usual frame with some pieces that you construct before sticking the tiles on top, and that just sits on top there in position and sits quite nicely. It doesn't feel like it's going to move because it's got some extra pieces here to keep it in place. If I put the roof to the side and then I'll spin this round, you can see that this is the inside of Fred's house. These parts here at the back do actually open up. The back is not closed at all, so you can always see inside, but you've got the option of closing these areas in here or opening them up like this to get better access. And what you'll find here on this part here is a telephone. So during the live build, I did scratch my head for a little bit to try and figure out what this piece actually was. But of course, I did remember that when Wilma used to answer the phone, there was a kind of a tusk piece she used to put to her ear. So they've used a white croissant here to actually get that look going here. And I think they've done quite well to make the telephone out of Lego bricks there. Then on this side, this extendable piece here, you've got a nice lamp in white with some blue pieces to make the actual stem of the light. And then there's this crate here which actually contains some bowling, 10 pins and a bowling ball. So if you wanted to, you could depict that Fred was doing some bowling on his front garden or in his back if you wanted to. And these are nice little builds as well. When I was building this, I was thinking back to another LEGO Ideas where someone had submitted the bowling alley, and these would have been quite nice designs for the bowling alley. So if you're interested in building one for your Lego city, the technique used here might be useful for you if you wanted to build some 10 pins. Then moving into the actual main house itself, behind here on this side, of course, because you've got a chimney on the outside, there is actually a fire behind the sofa. Very small little arch with a couple of orange 1x1 round plates in there, but you can't really see it with the sofa in the front. Above the fireplace, there is another printed tile which has a woolly mammoth on it. Again, as I said, it's a printed tile, so there's no stickers there. Here you can see the insides of the curtains. So these are some easy constructions with some clips, some rods, and some tiles on there to give the tiger skin look. This sofa is a nice little build as well, completely in white, and it's a place for Fred to relax. You've got a cloud piece here, which is used to make a table in the middle, and there's a fruit bowl with some fruit in the middle there as well. So Fred's staying nice and healthy. And then finally on this side, you actually build a prehistoric television. So if I pull this out and show you, it'll probably come off of its base, but you can see there's another printed tile there, and a nice little construction of what looks like a prehistoric television. And you can see on the printed tile that actually there's a news broadcaster going on at the moment, and he's saying that Dino is missing. And I think they use that then as an excuse as to why Dino is not included in the set. I presume it's probably too expensive for a mould, and doing a minifigure of Dino probably wouldn't have looked particularly good. So as I mentioned earlier, he's not included in this set. So they've used that as, I think, a way to excuse his exclusion from the set. And then over in the far corner here, in front of sort of next to the television, I think this is going to be a sink, because I remember in the cartoons that Fred used to do the washing up in front of the window on this side. So there's an indication that there's a sink here made out of some panel tiles and some jumpers to give an illusion of some drawers. Here you can see the internal of the door. So as I said, it's square. If you open this up, you can see right through here. They use some interesting techniques to get the door and the windows so that they're not uniform. So they actually do look like they're carved out of rock, and that sometimes a big chunk might have come off, or smaller chunks. So I do like the non-uniformity of the way they've done of the windows and the doors, and this door just snugly shuts like that. And then that's the detail of the set. So there wasn't too many pieces, as I already mentioned, in this set, and it didn't take too long to build. It probably took just over an hour for me to build, so it's not too bad. Again, if you're interested in in how the build pans out, then do check the live stream out from the link that I'll put in the description below. So overall, I really enjoyed building this set. The original Ideas set was actually only slightly different to the final set that they've produced, so I'm glad that LEGO didn't stray too far away from the original design, as we know sometimes that they can do that, and they often change LEGO Ideas sets into something that's completely different. So I'm glad to see that this one was pretty much intact. I will put a link in the description below to the original Ideas design that was submitted as well and approved, so you can see the comparison between what the original design looks like compared to this. And you'll find that it looks pretty similar on most counts. At least that's what I think. I did love the build of Fred's car, and the minifigures are great as well, of course, and the level of detail on the print as well. As I already mentioned, there is a lack of a Dino, so it's a bit of a shame that they didn't include that, because he was one of the integral characters that caused Fred lots of problems in the cartoon. But as I mentioned, I guess the cost of producing a mould to actually do Dino probably wasn't worth it in the end. So I hope that this is probably one of the first ventures that they go into more cartoon type sets. I'd love to see more of the sort of Hanna-Barbera kind of cartoons come to life, maybe Top Cat in the future, or one that I particularly would really love to see would be Wacky Races, to get all the different car sets from those races and get a proper landscape of the wacky races. Obviously Dick Dastardly would probably be my favourite, but the Goon Squad and all the rest of it were all individually good, and I think they'd all make individual great sets with the level of detail that you could get away with in that. So hopefully, I'm fingers crossed that LEGO do produce more cartoon type sets in the future. I was also pleased that there were no stickers in this set at all, and all the pieces were printed on tiles, which is really great, and I like to see, and I hope that LEGO do that a bit more often in the future. I think this is probably the first set that I've actually built thinking about it where I've not had to stick any stickers on at all, which was a nice change. So if the Flintstones were a childhood cartoon that you really enjoyed, then you'll really enjoy this set. It has an adequate level of detail to keep the build engaging, and it's a nice touches that are thrown in here and there just to remind you of the cartoon itself. I may display mine on the shelf for the time being, but hopefully in the future I'll be able to include this in the theme park, which I'm going to be building as well, maybe as a prehistoric sort of area or place where people can pose with Fred and the characters themselves. So hopefully you found this episode useful. If you did, hit that like button and smash subscribe with the bell notification turned on to be notified of future LEGO Ideas set reviews we do just like this one. And until next time, stay safe and I'll see you then.